How's it going, everybody? Today we are going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the Yakima OutPost HD truck bed rack on our 2021 Ford F-150. This will be a great solution for you if you want a little bit more storage, you want to keep items up out of your bed, but you want to still be able to access them, or even in the event that you want to get a rooftop tent up here, we can do that too. So we'll take a closer look at how it works. First thing we're going to be taking a look at is our crossbars. So on our end cap here, we do have the stud. If we want to, we can strap down some items that way. On the top of the crossbars, we have this channel for T-track accessories. It also has this weather strip to seal it up in the event that we're not using those, to cut down on some of that wind noise and that drag. As well, the crossbars are HD, so they're heavy duty, but most of our clamp-on accessories are still going to work, and they still will be able to wrap around. The whole system is made of aluminum with a black powder coat finish, which is going to hold up really well to whatever we want to throw at it. And it is able to support up to 500 pounds of weight capacity on road. If you want to take it off road, that's going to drop down to 300 pounds, which a lot of people are going to use this for things like overlanding. So it's nice to know that the weight capacity and the materials, as well as that black powder coat, are going to be able to stand up to that challenge. Now we'll take a look at the towers that hold our crossbars up. So we do have this anchor point. If we want to, we can get some more straps down there. There's a bottle opener down here. On the sides, we do have a couple of openings. We can get some sidebar rails installed there for more storage. If you want to, that is an option. All four of the towers connect to one of these quick change bases. So if you want to, you can just pop most of the ladder rack system off, including the towers and the crossbars, and all that will remain will be the bases. So if you don't want the added height at any point, but you don't want to remove the whole system, that is an option. On the subject of those clamps, that's one of my least favorite parts about this system. They're pretty robust, but finding a spot for them under the rail sometimes can be a little bit tricky just because they're really wide, and then you have to find a way to thread those bolts, but we'll take a closer look at that at the install portion. On one of each set of bases, there will be a post where we can attach a lock core. So when we lock that up, you won't be able to unthread that bolt, and you won't be able to take the ladder rack or the rack off of the bases. Additionally, with these bases, if you get the Retrax XR tonneau cover and the adapter, you are actually able to use this with a tonneau cover, which I could see being really nice, especially if you want to keep some items accessible, but you want to protect some certain items on the inside of your bed as well. These are possible to use with a tonneau cover as long as you pick up the adapter. The height that we're going to be adding from the rails to the top of the system is going to be about 13 inches. So that's the number you might want to keep in mind as far as how high you already have this rail sitting and how much higher can you store your items up there and still have access to them. But overall, the install portion of the rack itself isn't too terribly difficult. It's just a matter of, again, using this tape measure to find that crossbar spread and figure out where you want the bases to be, getting those clamps installed, and then the rest sort of falls in place. But if you need a little bit of help figuring that out, we'll walk you through that process right now. For the install, first thing we want to do is lay everything out to make sure we know what and where it is. So we have our towers, we have our 68-inch HD crossbar, we have the pads, we have 4 clamps and the respective hardware for the clamps. We have our 10, 6, and 4 millimeter Allen keys, base plates, keys, lock cores, and hardware, as well as a good idea is just to have a tape measure. There will be a couple measurements we need to get throughout. So we have our front system already set up. The process is going to be the same for both. So let's get to it. First, we will need to use the 4 millimeter Allen key, turn our crossbars upside down to expose this bolt and the underside channel. Loosen it up, flip it over to get it out, and take the end cap off. And we're going to slide both of those base plates that we talked about at the beginning right into that channel. And then we'll replace the end cap. Again, using that 4 millimeter Allen key. And our next step will be getting the pads in place. When setting up your bases, there's a few things to keep in mind. First of all, you want to know how much crossbar spread you're going to need for most of your accessories. So in our case, we're using this for something like a tent, or whether it's a bike rack, they're going to have different measurements. So whatever you need to carry, that's one way to know where you're going to put these. Also, under our rails here, we do have some things that we can't get clamps under, so that's another thing to consider. Also with the bases, one of them will be locking and one of them will not be. So you just want one that locks and one that doesn't on each set so that no one can come and just take these off your rails. Once we're happy with where the pads are and we've measured on both sides, we'll start by dropping a square washer into this channel. And then you could either put the bolt in now, or I kind of just prefer to get the clamp underneath and set that up where I want that to go. And then drop the bolt down in there. And thread that in place. Just tight enough by hand to the point where this base doesn't want to fall off the rails anymore. Same thing on the front here. Drop the washer and the bolt in. Thread it up by hand. And in this case, I'm just going to use the tool. This is the 10mm Allen key. Just tighten everything down on the front. And then we'll move back to the back where we just tightened it up enough to stay. Get that tightened down all the way. And then we'll repeat this process with the base on the other side. With both of our bases in place, we're going to loosen up this front plate with, in this case, the 4mm Allen key. Just stick it into this bolt on the post to open this up wide enough to accept our towers. On the other side, it's going to be the same thing, but we'll need the 6mm Allen key. Once we have it open wide enough to accept our tower, we're going to drop it in backside first, lay the front side down, and I'm just going to hand thread this back in until it stays, and then I'll grab that 4mm Allen key again and tighten it the rest of the way down. Same thing on the other side. Now we're going to take our crossbars. We already have these set up with the base plates inside. So I'm going to put it upside down, roughly where it's going to go. And then I'm going to use the ruler that is built in underneath it to line up just about where I want the crossbars to be. So just get the same number on both sides. In this case, I need to slide it this way just a little bit. And then we'll flip it over and get it installed. From here, I like to line up my base plate from underneath first, or get it roughly into place. So just keep an eye on where those are, and then I use this front bolt just to catch it once it's there. And then I want to tighten this up to about 75% once I get it threaded. This will just hold the system roughly in place, and then I'm going to go to the other side and do the same thing. Back on the original side, I'm going to tighten this down the rest of the way. And then I'm going to get this other bolt installed. Now that we have the one on the other side in place, it won't pull the whole thing towards us, which is why we went back and forth at first. I like to use the tool to get this one into that channel. It's easier to do than by hand. And tighten that down, and then we'll get both of these in on the other side. After all the bolts are in place and our crossbars are secure, we're going to take this lock core, line it up with the post, just fit it right on like that. Once we have everything in place and tightened down, I'm just going to do a final shake test. And as you can see, I'm moving the whole car and our rack isn't moving at all, so we're good to go, ready to hit the road. Overall, if you're looking for a solution to getting a little bit more storage up and out of the bed, but still having access to it, or maybe you want to get something up there like a tent, the Yakima OutPost is definitely going to be a really solid option. That being said, if you are looking for maybe some larger or longer items, something like a ladder or lumber, or even up to like a kayak on the sports and rec side of things, I would recommend checking out the Yakima Overhaul. It's just going to be the same exact system, but with retractable arms that will allow it to go taller up to get those loads over the cab. But again, if you are just focused on some of the things we talked about in this video, this is still going to be a really solid solution. This again was just a quick look at the Yakima OutPost HD system, how to install it on our 2021 Ford F-150.